Okay, so now we're Perek Yud Aleph Yeshayahu. I want to just introduce by talking about prophecy for a minute. So there's the two basic types of prophecy. There's the prophecy of Moshe, which is like through a clear glass. Hashem spoke to Moshe in a very direct way. He's able to give over ideas directly. And Moshe wrote them down, and that's the Torah. And then there's a prophecy, it's called in the Aspaklaria Yomi era. It's like not a clear glass, it's reflected, something like that. That's a prophecy of the rest of the prophets. So every prophet, they see things in not totally clear way, and they see things in images, and the images need interpretation. The stronger the prophecy, the clearer it is. The weaker it is, the less clear it is. The Gross says that the early prophets like Yeshua, Shoftim, Shmuel, Malachim are a higher level than the later prophets, which is really interesting because it looks like it's stories, but it's actually history being interpreted by the prophet, And so that's a very high prophecy, and it's a very high level of prophecy. It's not like Moshe Rabbeinu, though. It's the lower level, but it's the higher of the lower levels, and then later prophets are the lower of the lower levels. So it's interesting. So, it's a little bit, you have a bit of prophecy here about something, and you have it a little later, and then further on, and it comes down in various sections and different images and different statements and predictions. So the prophets, the prophecies about what's going to happen in the near future and the far future, but it's not like clear paragraphs coming down. It's coming down in various, in partial ways and hidden, partly more hidden or more revealed ways. That's the prophecies we're dealing with. So it's interesting. So they're not straight out. They're not prose, right? They're poetry and they're images, but with help of the Meforshim and with getting familiar with it, with where they appear and reappear, so you start to see the picture. It becomes more and more clear. Okay, so here these are prophecies about the Mashiach, about Melech HaMashiach, Sof Yamim. These are some of the famous prophecies about that in Yeshayahu. I'm going to bring you a little back and forth here because it references back and forth, and also into Sefer, into the Second Sanhedrin, where it talks about Chizkiyahu and the future prophecy, future Mashiach. Okay, starting from here. So just we're at Yud Aleph. So right before this, it talks about the fall of Sancheriv. Like Melech Ashur was this great empire. It was like mopping up nations one after another. It was gigantic, fierce, and it was coming to conquer Yerushalayim. And really, we had no chance against it. But comes the prophecy. Yeshayahu came and said, "Don't worry about it. It's no problem. He's going to fall before you." And that's what happened there. Where it says there, it describes some kind of a malach, an angel. A force came and destroyed the whole army of Sancheriv, and Sancheriv fell. Okay. And it describes also the great bitachon of Chizkiyahu. Chizkiyahu had great trust in Hashem like nobody had before or after, in a certain sense. That's what it seems to say in the pasuk. And so he stood against the overwhelming odds, and he trusted in Hashem b'kol libo. And so through him, through his channeling of the trusting of Hashem, and also through his bringing up the nation, the nation was a very, very high level then also. Everybody was learning Torah from Dan ad Beersheva. They all knew like Hilchas Tumah, Vatahara, and everything. The children, everybody, they were all learning Torah on the highest level. So it was a very lofty society. This is what happened afterwards. After it was built up again, after Sancheriv fell. So it was a very special time with a very special king, Chizkiyahu. So then it says so let's start from here. I'm going to go back also in a minute to go back to Chizkiyahu. But first I'm going to start here on Yud Aleph. V'yatza choter megeza Yishai, v'neitzer misharashav Yifreh. So it will come out a choter megeza Yishai. It will come out a new growth from the trunk of Yishai. V'neitzer misharashav Yifrach, and a sapling from its roots Yifreh will flourish. Okay, so that pasuk has two parts to it, and they're not the same. The first part is describing in the parable here is there'll be a cut off trunk. And out of that trunk, before it's cut up to the lowest, down to the bottom, but not all the way down. Out of that will come out a new growth, and that will become the new trunk. It will grow back up again. Like in other words, a trunk will grow out of the trunk, and it'll become a big tree again. That's the first part of this pasuk, and the second pasuk describes something different. It describes a netzer misharashav yifreh. It's a sapling will grow up from the roots. So I'm explaining according to the Malbim. So what it means is there's two possibilities. So the trunk refers to Malchut Beit David, the house of David, and that was now that had a continuous line from the time of David HaMelech until Chizkiyahu. Right, we're holding now in the time of Chizkiyahu, and so one possibility is that Chizkiyahu will become the Melech Mashiach, and he'll be that trunk that grows up from the cut-off trunk. So it means that there will be continuation of the Malchus based David without interruption. Even though it'll be cut off at some point, it's going to grow back from Chizkiyahu, it'll cut down low, go back, and so there will be Malchus Beit David will become the Malchus of Mashiach. That's the first possibility. The second possibility is that after a period of time, the Malchut Beit David will disappear. There will be no Malchut. There will be Galut, and there will be the dissolving of the Malchut Beit David. But the roots will still be there. There will still be the seed of David HaMelech. And from that seed, from those roots that are underground, will come up eventually a new sapling, and that will be the Melech HaMashiach. That's the two possibilities. So there was a possibility for Chizkiyahu Melech to be actually the Melech HaMashiach. But it didn't work. And therefore we're waiting for the next Mashiach to come, who will be from the roots of David HaMelech as well, instead of from the Geza of David HaMelech. That's how this pasuk here is explained. Okay, good so far? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, now let's go back to, you should turn your Sefer, turn back to Perak Tet. So it's talking there also about Chizkiyahu Melech. And it says like this: Ha'am ochim b'choshek ra'u or gadol, yoshvei be'eretz hamavet or naga alehem. The nation that was going in darkness, they saw a great light. And the ones that were dwelling in the darkness of Tzalmavet, of death, a great light will shine over them. Hirbita ha'goy lo higdalta. You built up the nation. Higdalta simcha samchu lefanecha simchas bekatzir kasher gilu bechelkam shalah. They'll be so happy like the people in the time of harvest. So that's talking about in the times of Chizkiyahu. Rashi says, "Hey Yoshvi Shalim Shayu Chashekim Midaget Sancherev." So this is talking about people going in the darkness. That's the people in Shalim that were terrified of the approaching gigantic army, unbelievably gigantic army. Little Shalim is coming to destroy, wipe us off the face of the earth. And then they're going to see a great light, which is the downfall of Sancherev. Okay, this is predicted by Yeshayahu earlier. And then it goes on. So it talks about that. And it goes it's like this. It talks about the downfall of Sancherev. And then Pasuk Hey says like this: Ki yelad yulad lanu, because a child will be born to us. Ben nitan lanu, a son will be born to us. Fatiyah misra al shechmo. V'yikre shemo peli yoetz el gibor avi ad sar shalom. So it's very interesting. So a child will be born to us, a son will be to us, and the Misra, the leadership will be on his shoulders. His name will be called, now who's going to call him that name? Hashem. And when it says Pele Yoetz El Gibor, that's talking about Hashem. The wonderful counselor, the mighty Kel, will call him the name Aviad, the Father forever, Sar Shalom. He will be called the Sar Shalom. Those titles in the middle, that's referring back to Hashem. And then in the end, that's how the Malbim explains it, he'll be the Prince of Peace. The Prince of Peace will be this yellow that's going to be born. So there's going to be a Yeled born to us, and he'll take the burden on his shoulder, or the leadership on his shoulders. He'll be called by Hashem himself the Prince of Peace. Okay. So who's that? That's Chizkiyahu. That's referring to Chizkiyahu. That's the context. Because Sancheriv will be destroyed miraculously, and then there will be, Chizkiyahu will be the Melech HaMashiach. Or he'll be the king. Let's say he'll be the king of this time. So he'll be the great king with the king of the Prince of Peace. He'll be potentially a Mashiach. And then it goes further. Vav. L'marbe hamisre ulo shalom ein kates al kisei David val mamlakto lachin ota ulasada b'mishpat u'pizdaka mi'atav yarolam kinat Hashem tzavakot tasezo. Okay, now very interesting passage. Now it says L'marbe hamisre, for the great leadership, something like that. But the interesting is the mem here. You see the mem in L'marbe? So it should be a regular mem, and it's a mem sofit. Yeah. Okay, so the mem's turned around, and then on the side it makes it into a regular mem, right? Okay, now, so it says a mem sofit there. Okay, now. So L'marbe hamisre, for the great leadership, I think that means, Ula shalom ein ketz, and for unending peace, al kisei David, on the throne of David, V'al mamlachto, and on his kingship, lachin ota, it'll be established. Ulasada b'mishpat, it'll be sustained by judgment, u'b'tzedakah, and righteousness, mi'atav olam, forever. Kinat Hashem tzavakot tazeh, the zealousness of Hashem will do this. He's going to set up the throne of the king of Israel forever. Okay, so that's referring to Chizkiyahu. Yeah. Now, that didn't happen though. Chizkiyahu did not become the Mashiach. Yeah. So why not? So all right. So let's learn the Gemara. I want to show you this Gemara. Okay, let's go straight to the Gemara. Look at the Gemara. We can read the English. I did it so far as we can read the English. Okay. I'm going to start with the Hebrew there and then go into the English. L'mar b'misra l'shalom ein kates. Amar b'tamkum darish bar kapara. B'tzpur me'ma kol mem shebe'emtza ha'teva patuach v'zeh satum. So they asked, how come every mem in the middle of a letter is supposed to be patuach, open, and this one is closed? It's closed mem, like you have at the end of a word. Bikesh Kadosh Baruch Hu lasot Chizkiyahu Mashiach. Hashem wanted to make Chizkiyahu the Mashiach. For Sancheriv Gog Magog, and Sancheriv would have been the final war of the nations against Israel and against Hashem. And then comes Mashiach. Okay, I'm going to go to the next part. I could actually do it in Hebrew. It's maybe quicker than all these words. Amrat Mid, and then what happened is it didn't work out because it didn't work out. That's why the mem is closed on all four sides. So the reason why it was, so this pasuk is talking about the potential for it's going to become the Mashiach, and the mem indicates that was closed off, that potential. Now going further, Amar Midat Hadin, the Gemara says, let's skip down to the next Hebrew line of it. Amar Midat Hadin, it said the property of justice. Ribono Shalom, master of the world, Ma David Melech Yisrael, Shamar Kama Shirot V'Tishbachot. David, the king of Israel, David Melech Yisrael, he said many songs and praises. We have the whole Tehillim, all the praises that King David made. Lefanecha, he said them all in front of you. Lo asito Mashiach, we did make a Mashiach. Chizkiyahu, Sitalo, call Anisim Alala, Chizkiyahu, that you made him all these wonderful miracles, that you destroyed the Sancheriv in one night. That was the biggest miracle imaginable. Lo Amar Shir Lefanav, Lefanecha, he didn't say song before you. Chizki didn't say song. Taseo Mashiach, L'kach Nisam. That's why it was closed off from him the ability to be Melech Mashiach. That's what the Gemara says. So very interesting thing. In other words, King David, He had miracles, but not like this. And he filled the world with song and praise. And he didn't become a Mashiach. So now you, Chizkiah, we thought maybe you become a Mashiach. You were lined up in line for being a Mashiach. But because you didn't say praise after the biggest miracle of all, so therefore the power of judgment comes and says, no, we're going to let it happen. That's the story here. Okay, now it goes further. Miyad Pascha Aretz, Va'amar Lefanav, Baruch Shalom. The Aretz opened up its mouth. The land started to speak. And it said, Master of the world, Ani Omeret Lefanecha Shira Tachat Tzadik. Zeh Vasei Mashiach. I'll sing the song instead of this person. And instead of this tzaddik, and make a Mashiach. Like the land wants him to be Mashiach. The earth, everybody, the whole creation wants Mashiach to come. So the earth says, okay, I'll sing the praise. So he wanted to say the praise. And then what happens? Oh, once it's not all printed here. Oh yeah. Amar Sar Olam. Oh, they didn't print the end of the paragraph. And then it says, Razi li the treacherous deal, the treacherous deal. We didn't see the end of the pasuk here in this printout, but basically, it doesn't work. The earth's plea doesn't go. And Amar Sara Olam Lefanav, and then the master of the world calls out to Hashem. The master of that doesn't mean Hashem. That means the Sar of the world, the prince of the world, whatever that means. Okay, he says also he wants to make a Mashiach. And it says, Razi li, Amr Navi. Oili, Admatai Yatzabat Kova Amra, Bognim Bagdu, etc. Okay, basically what happens is there's a prediction now that it's not going to happen. Not only that, there's going to be two Batei Mikdash, 2 times that we're going to have Batei Mikdash, and they're both going to be destroyed, and there's going to be a lot of suffering, a lot of difficulty until Mashiach finally comes, and Yeshayahu starts to mourn the lost possibility. We had a possibility of Mashiach at that time in history with Chizkiyahu, and it didn't work out. And as a result, it's going to be a long process till Mashiach finally comes. That's what it says over here. So it's very interesting. So I saw in one of the Mefarshim, what's his name again? I forgot. The Petach Einaim is the name of the Sefer. By the Chidah, yeah. So the Chidah says that how would the shir, if Chizkiyahu would say a song, how would that perfect him as Mashiach? And the fact he didn't say a song, how come that was his undoing? That was undoing of this process. What does that mean? Like one person says a song, so even he was a perfect tzaddik. What about everyone else? You know, and if people weren't ready for Mashiach, so then how would Chizkiyahu saying a song bring Mashiach? Singing praise. That's the question of the Chidah. So basically, what he answers is that we see by Shir Sayam, is the Chidah's answer. When the Jews crossed the Yam Suf, so they said Shira. They said praise. So it turns out saying praise, like from the bottom of your heart for something really great, is an extremely elevating, purifying thing to do. It's like an expression of the soul in the deepest way. Saying praise. Like in other words, it doesn't just mean a niggin. It means the words which come out from this deep place praising in the deepest level the greatness of Hashem. So when the Jews did that after they crossed the Yam Suf, so it says they all got forgiven all their sins. Yep. So we've been in Egypt, we had a bunch of sins behind us, this and that. So at that time there's a forgiving of all the sins, because that's what a song does. A person is able to praise Hashem from the depths, so then he gets mechilat avonot, forgiveness of all his sins. So that's what he says. That's what happened here also. If Chizkiyahu had been able to sing the full praise of Hashem, it's sort of like David HaMelech style, after the downfall of Sancheriv, then that would have brought a kapara and purification to the old Jewish people, and it would have been the era of Mashiach. And that didn't happen. So that's very interesting. So here we learn that whenever something great happens to you, something special happens, especially if it's miraculous, then it's very important to express back, to give full praise to that thing. Okay. So that's why, for example, every Pesach, we spend 7 days celebrating the great miracle of Pesach. On Shavuos, we praise Hashem, with Hallel and all kinds of praise for receiving the Torah. And on Sukkot, also for going out of Egypt and the Nane Kavod. So we praise Hashem every year for the miracle. So it's very interesting. So now we have something called Yom Ha'atzmaut. So people talk about this in this context. And now we have what was a gula, was a redemption. It wasn't a complete redemption, but it was redemption just as predicted in the Torah. In other words, we now have a new Jewish state, and we have people pouring back from the four corners of the earth, from every four corner of the earth, unbelievable, and coming back to rebuild a Jewish state with great miracles, with great opposition. Something like, it's one of these wars, everyone opposed to us, and us succeeding in making a nation. So because of that, we make Yom Ha'atzmaut and we praise Hashem on Yom Ha'atzmaut. So, but it's not complete Gula yet, and it's not. There's a long ways to go, but it was a major aspect of the Gula, predicted by the Torah and fulfilled in the world. So therefore, the praising of Yom Ha'atzmaut is very important, and it could be that year after year, as we do Yom Ha'atzmaut, we're sort of like making a tikkun. We're compensating for what Chizkiyahu didn't do. Chizkiyahu had a great miracle. Yerushalayim was almost wiped off the face of the earth by Sanchev, and a miracle, and they were killed. Same thing, we had a great miracle that we were brought back from the four corners of the earth, and we were almost wiped off the face of the earth, and we miraculously weren't, and now we have a flourishing Jewish country, again, full of Torah and avodas Hashem, and so now we have to say praise every Yom Ha'atzmaut. So that's very interesting. It's hard for us to feel that in a full way, since we're still in such a process, so much spiritual work to do. But the grounds for the Geula was laid, and we're in the process of Geula with the great miracles. So therefore, Yom Ha'atzmaut is about that. They say about Reb Tzviuda that he was always happy. And people asked him, how come you're always happy? So he says, I get it from Yom Ha'atzmaut, because the happiness I get on Yom Ha'atzmaut, it makes me happy the whole year. So that's very interesting. Okay. So anyway, that's a side point. Sort of. I mean, it's not really a side point. It's what comes out of this. Okay, so that's so now those psukim over there that describe how Chizkiyahu could have become the Mashiach, and there was a potential in that, and it's a potential in the psukim over here. And in the end, it didn't quite work out. The nation wasn't on that level quite, or they were very, very high level, and Chizkiyahu was at a very, very high level also. But he fell short a little bit. He didn't do that praise. It's amazing that's the key thing, praising Hashem. The whole world is made for praise in some ways. That's why the world is great, that we should praise Him. So it's a pasuk in Yeshayahu. We'll get to that. So we have to. So okay. So that's why we fell short. Okay, that's the pshat over there. So very interesting. Okay, let's go further. For Nach now it's describing this. What happens is
Yud Aleph, or we'll continue with
Yud Aleph. Yeah, I'm going back to Yud Aleph. So then what happens is that. Let me just explain to you more from the Malbim over here how it describes this dual possibilities. The first possibility was that Chizkiyahu could have been Mashiach. And if that didn't happen, then it would be a long way, but there would be a Mashiach coming still from the seed of David HaMelech, from the ancestors. And the pshat is, one second. Okay, so far, I guess I explained all I need to explain. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so now it starts to describe. So that's what happens here. So now this part, the next part, is describing the future Mashiach. It's coming. This at least according to the Malbim. What's happening now is we're talking about the Mashiach that's going to come in the end of time, or whatever Mashiach comes, and that's what's describing now. Because there were two possibilities: one that would come early, and one that would come in the right time, whether we merited it or not. If we merited it, Mashiach would come early. And that could have been the time of Chizkiyahu. But if we didn't merit it, it's going to come in the right time. Whether we merit it or not, Mashiach is still going to come. So that's the prophecy there. And so the first possibility is that grows right up from the trunk. That's if it would have been Chizkiyahu. And the other possibility is the trunk gets destroyed. That's Malchut Beit David. And then from the roots, there grows up eventually a sapling, and that becomes Mashiach. And now the next pasuk can describe Mashiach. I just want to point out, I was going to tell you that other pasuk also that describes the two possibilities. There's another one, which I just referred to, which is this one here. It is, one second, here. Just like gathering together some of these psukim, which all fit together. Yeshayahu Samach. So there's a description of the time of Mashiach. I'll start with pasuk Yud Chet. Samach Yud Chet. Okay. Lo yishma od Hamas ba'artzech. Shod v'shever b'gvulayach. V'karat Yeshua chomotayach. V'sharayach tehila. There will no longer be heard violence in your land, no longer breaking and destruction in your borders, and it will be called out a salvation among your walls, etc., and in your gates. Lo yelach od hashemesh le'or yomam u'lenoga hayereach lo yirlach v'ayilach Hashem le'or olam ve'lokayach l'tifartech. It's not like just the sun and the moon are running the world. It's going to be Hashem. The light of Hashem will be running the world. This is Tzork Derek Melitza. Lo yavo od shimshech v'yurchech lo yesef ki Hashem yelach le'or olam v'shamu yemei evlech. It won't be a rising and falling like the setting and rising of the sun, ups and downs in life. Hashem will be for you an eternal light, and the days of your mourning will be completed. V'amei kulam tzadikim, and your nation will be all righteous. The olam yirshu aretz, they will inherit the land forever. Neitzer mata'av, the planting of his hands. Maisi adai litpaer, the works of my hands, Hashem says, to glorify in them. Hakaton yiyer la'alef, the small one will be 1,000. Vatseir legoy atzum, and the younger one will be a great nation. There will be this great population of this righteous nation. Ani Hashem be'ita achishena. So that last phrase is what I wanted to bring out especially. It says be'ita achishena. So it's be'ita means in its time. Achishena means I will hurry it. So that's a contradiction, because either it's in its time or it's I will hurry it. So if you look at Rashi there, he says be'ita achishena, zacho achishena. If they will merit it, it will come fast. Lo zachu be'ita. If they don't merit it, it will come in its time. So here's that prophecy. So that's what's happening. That's what it means over here also. If they were zocha, they would have had it. If they merited, they would have had in time of Chizkiyahu. Because they didn't merit, it's going to come in its time whenever it's ready to come. And it's not because of our merit. It's going to become when Hashem brings it, even if we don't merit it fully. Yeah. Okay. Going pasuk beit. Nach alav ruach Hashem ruach hakma ruach bina ruach eitza gvura ruach dat v'yirat Hashem. So pasuk bet. Back in Yud Aleph. Yud Aleph bet, yeah. So it will rest on him, it's talking about Mashiach, rest on him a spirit of Hashem. Ruach Chachma Ubina, a spirit of wisdom and insight. Ruach Eitza Ugvura, a spirit of counsel and strength. Ruach Dat V'yirat Hashem. Okay, so the Malbim explains those qualities are the qualities of Mashiach. He'll be perfected in all those areas. Okay. So first thing is the intelligence. Nach alav ruach Hashem of ruach chachma ubina, wisdom and insight. So first thing, wisdom is what people receive from their teachers and from the source or the previous sources, and bina is what a person gets from using his own insights and analysis and sorting out the wisdom that he receives. So he will have this ruach Hashem of wisdom and insight. He'll be in this highest level of perfection of wisdom, number one.
So Bina is from self?
Bina is analysis. Analysis. Where you take the wisdom that's passed down and you analyze it, that's Bina. Wisdom is Chachma, comes from above, it comes from, or it's passed down, and it's received. And then Bina is how you build it. Lashon boneh. You build it by analyzing, asking, until you come up with the clarity of what you received. So so Chachma Bina he will have the spirit of Hashem giving him great wisdom and insight. So that will be first of all, he'll be very, very wise. Okay, the Mashiach. Second of all, he'll have a ruach of Eitz Gvura, counsel and strength. So the Malbim says that means he will have a pure imagination. His imagination will be able to see, will picture itself always in the the true way, and therefore he'll have a lot of strength to motivated by his imagination, by pure imagination. That's the second thing. And the third thing is ruach dat v'yirat Hashem. He'll have a ruach of dat and yirat Hashem. So the dat means knowing Hashem. It means what the Nevi'im get. He's going to be a Navi, the Mashiach. He's going to have knowledge of Hashem's ways. And yirat Hashem, and he'll have fear of Hashem. He says, Malbim says, if you're lacking one of those, it's not enough. If you have knowledge of Hashem without fear of Hashem, that's no good. If you have fear of Hashem without knowledge of Hashem, that's not. So he's going to have all those qualities together. That's going to be the Mashiach. Okay, so perfect intellect, perfect imagination, and an understanding of Hashem's ways, prophetic understanding. Okay. Varicho b'yirat Hashem, and he will get the scent of the fearing of Hashem. V'lo lamar einav yishpot, he will not judge according to the way things look. V'lo lemishma aznav yochiach, and not according to the report of his ears will he rebuke. So Mashiach is going to be a person that's going to be above nature. The power of the soul is going to be so strong that he won't have to use his senses to make judgments. He will smell it. Haricho b'yirat Hashem, he will smell yirat Hashem. Fear of Hashem will be something that is just the way he is. He has this fear of Hashem, and he won't have to take the way things look and assess them and examine the evidence before he can judge a case. And he won't have to listen to the reports and sift through them and maybe make a mistake. He'll be able to see directly, like someone smells the truth. He's going to see when someone comes before him with a judgment, he'll be able to judge with the sense of a smell, with the sense of...
Like Urim and Tumim?
More than that. It's going to be... The Urim Tumim was just letters and you had to interpret it. This is going to be straight out. He's going to be able to judge everyone on the spot, etc. Like this. Because the soul can do that. The soul can see directly, so he has this power of the soul is so empowered inside him that it overrides the senses, and you can see straight into things. I don't know sure about this after death experiences things. When people say that they come back with these stories, I saw stories of after death experiences when the soul goes out of the body. And then it could see on the operating room, the person himself on the operating room,
out of body,
on the table. Yeah. And the soul can see, even though it doesn't have eyes. The soul sees because it just sees without eyes, and it sees everything. So anyway, so that's going to be the Mashiach. He's going to be able to smell even the truth. And when the judgment comes before him, he'll judge it immediately. We talk about that as a sense of justice, So that will be so strong, he won't be able to fool him. V'shafet b'tzedek dalim, v'ochiach b'mishor la'an ve'aretz, v'ika eretz v'v'sheva piv uruch savatav yamit rasha. He will judge with righteousness the afflicted, the dalim, or the poor. V'ochiach b'mishor la'an ve'aretz. He will rebuke with clarity the humble of the land. The humble of the land, the an ve'aretz. That means he'll judge them. He'll judge in their favor. Right, when they're being oppressed. And it could mean either individuals or also could be nations that he's going to judge.
Sorry. The earlier.
Yeah. First is V'shafet b'tzedek dalim. He will judge righteously the afflicted, the poor. In other words, he'll judge in their favor. V'ochiach b'mishor la'an ve'aretz. And he'll rebuke with clarity for the an ve'aretz, you have to say, for the humble of the land. He'll rebuke the ones or he'll make clear for them, he'll rebuke the ones that are afflicting them. That could either mean, there's different Mefarshim here, it could mean the people that are afflicted in Eretz Yisrael, or it could also mean Am Yisrael, as opposed, in connection to the nations. Like Am Yisrael is the An V'Aretz. V'hika Eretz V'shevet Piv, he will strike the land with the rod of his mouth, Ruach Svatav Yamit Rasha. And with the wind of his lips, he will kill the evil person. So it sounds like he will. It's not too clear. Also, some Mefarshim say, I think Mabba says this, that he'll have a power of cursing. Like this, when he'll just curse the evil, he'll say, "You're finished," and the guy will be dead. So he'll be able to do that also.
Well, it sounds like he'll be a judge for the world.
Yeah.
Everybody's listening to what he says.
Everyone's listening to what he says, and that's another shot that people will be judged. He'll be so strong, people will wither from his clarity of judgment, something like that. So that's what's going. So you have this greatest teacher, greatest judge. Vayat tzedek ezor masnav ve'emuna ezor chalatzav. And the righteousness will be the belt around his waist. V'emuna ezor chalatzav. And the faith will be the belt around his loins. That's something like that. So the Malbim says like this, that he'll now, these two type of qualities, the quality of tzedek and the quality of faith, they'll be part of him. They'll be attached to him altogether. It's not like there's something outside of him. He has to access faith, access righteousness. They'll be like part of him, like a belt, like attached to him altogether. And he says an interesting thing, the Malbim, a very deep thing. He says the outer one is the tzedek, the outer belt, or the outer wrapping, the outer tie around him is going to be righteousness, and inner one is going to be faith. So he says that one underneath, like underneath the garment, let's say, will be faith. Why is that? The inner one faith, the outer one righteousness, because he brings from the Chappos Levavos that always a person's emunah has to be somewhat hidden. Like you want it to be more hidden than it's revealed. Because emunah, you go around and you advertise your faith, that's some kind of a lack in faith. Faith is based on only between you and Hashem, right? And so that's the inner one that's not always revealed. Anyway, that's going to be, the Mashiach is going to have all this balance of righteousness and faith. V'gar zeiv im keves, v'namer im gedi, yerbats, v'egel uchvir umari, yachdav, v'nar katon noheg bam. So, v'gar zeiv im keves, he will dwell, the wolf with the sheep, v'namar im gedi, yerbats, and the leopard, the fiercest of animals, with a baby goat will lie down. Ve'egel ukfir umari yaktav. And there will be a baby cow, calf, and a kfir, and a lion, a baby lion, and the fat mother lion, fat mother cow. Yeah, they will all be going together. They'll all be like hanging out together. V'nar kato no higbam, and there'll be a little child like dancing around them. So in other words, the lion will not be dangerous, the nam will not be dangerous, the wolf will not be dangerous. They'll all be together and in harmony. Upar v'dov tirena yaktav, and the cow and the bear will graze together. Yirbatsu yaldehen, and their children will lie down together. V'aryeh kabakar yochel teven, and the lion, like the ox, will eat straw. V'shiasha yonek al chur paten, v'al m'urat tzifonim gamul yado chada, and the child will play over the hole of the snake, basically, and it won't hurt him. It won't. He'll put his hand over there, may get bit maybe, and it won't hurt. It won't be poisonous anymore. Okay, so what the prophecy here seems to be saying, that nature is going to change. There's something built into nature, which there's a certain drive to dominate and control and even consume other creatures, and it's going to go away. And this
is a literal interpretation.
So there's two different interpretations over here. To me, it seems more easy to understand it literally, and a lot of Mepharshim say that there's going to be a returning to original nature. Whereas for nature to change all of a sudden, that would be a little bit hard to imagine, because Hashem doesn't change his mind. I don't know, they talk about that. But the solution is that his original nature is going to be returned. Because, this says in Mepharshim, like when Adam and the first creatures were made, there was just like one of each, let's say, in the beginning. Okay. And if they ate each other, then they'd destroy the species. So they didn't. They were vegetarians at first, all the creatures. And also in the ark, you had two of each type, right? One couple. So now if the lions were going to eat the sheep over there, there'd be no sheep left. So you see that in those days, everything was eating the straw and the grass and the vegetables and the berries.
I understand what
and then what happened is the nature got worse as people got worse, just like it says by the generation of Noah. Yeah. So then the world got worse, and then there's this power drive, this drive to dominate and consume other creatures. So that became built into the world.
It affected nature as well.
Yeah. And also us, Rav Kook talks about that. Our desire to eat meat is also a type of a power drive. And in the future, that will go away also for human beings. They'll also become vegetarians again, like Adam Rishon was also. So, that's how it seems to me a simple way to learn it, that there actually be a change in the nature of things. And he says also, Rav Kashiel says that even if, let's say, like a lion eats a baby goat, the baby goat eats grass, and the grass creates the nourishment, right? And then the lion eats the goat, but the lion could eat the grass also, because that's really what's giving the nourishment anyway. So that step could be removed. So it's going to be removed. There's going to be the change of in that way. So it's going to go back to its original nature. Things will be there will be this not lack of need to dominate and control and destroy. It's interesting. I had a friend who had Buddhist teachers. He told me that before he was Chozer B'Tshuva, he was into Buddhism for a while, and he had and he had the Oriental teachers. So in the world of Buddhism, they have a different approach. They hold that the cruelty that's in the world is just something that you accept. And he says his teacher, he's in his teacher's room, he had these pictures of like these predators, like lions consuming deer, and ripping them up. And all these pictures, and his teacher loved those pictures. He was excited about them. Because that's the essence of Buddhism, is to accept the cruelty and just have no questions about things, But that's not really the essence of human beings, because we want there to be love and peace and justice. And that's built into us. And for us to give up on that, that's wrong. And Buddhism gives up on it in a certain sense. But Judaism doesn't. And Judaism says we're going to come back to that, and we're going to turn to that, and we're going to move towards that. And through Torah and through the spirit of Mashiach that fills the world, and moving the whole world towards its ultimate goal. So that's what's being described here. I asked my father one time, I asked him, why is it so important, this thing of waiting for Mashiach? So he told me there's a group of people that were called existentialists. Okay. And they didn't believe that you have to think about the future. You just live with the present, the way it is. And they became very depressed people. They weren't hopeful. They didn't see things, whatever's difficult, getting better. They just said you just live with the present. And many of them were suicidal, like Kafka, and who were the other famous people? There were a bunch. Sartre, he was a Russia also. And who's another one famous, great writer, some of them. But they were very unhappy, because if you don't have hope, you're not filled with hope, you're unhappy. That's human nature. That's the way it works. This world is a process. We're in process. And just individual wants to continually grow and bring out his potential. We all want the world to do that as also. So that's what the scribes say. The world is going to come to an amazing place. And it's very, very healthy and very amazing to learn about it and to look forward to it. Okay, just finishing up here. Lo Yareu Pasuk Tet. Lo Yareu V'lo Shkitu B'chol Har Kadshi Ki Mala Aretz Deya Et Hashem Kamayim Liyam Mechasim. It says they won't do evil and they won't destroy in all of my holy mountain. What's the holy mountain? It means the world. The whole world's going to be holy. I think that's one shot. That's a great shot. Ki Mala Aretz Deya, because the world will be full of wisdom. Et Hashem, of knowledge of Hashem. Kamayim Liyam Mechasim, like water covering the yam. Now, so what does it mean that the world has been full of wisdom like water covering the sea? How do we understand the words here? So explanation is like this: there won't be destruction, there won't be violence in the whole world, because the whole world will be Hashem's holy mountain. And why? Because the world will be full of knowledge of Hashem. I mean, that's what will interest everybody. They won't be interested in other things. They'll all be in yeshivas. They'll be in yeshivas of the Sheva Mitzvahs. They'll be in yeshivas of the Torah. They'll all be seeking out wisdom. They'll be learning through life, learning from each other. The whole world will be interested in wisdom, and we won't be interested in other things, really. That's the future. And it will be like, and the wisdom will cover the earth like the water covers the sea. So the Malbim says like this. What does it mean exactly, that parable? It's sort of an interesting parable. The water covers the sea. The water is the sea. What do you mean the water covers the sea? So the Malbim says it means, the yam doesn't mean the sea. It means the hole in the ground where the floor of the ground where the water goes into. Just like you see, it's those big basins in the Mishkan of the temple were called Yam Shel Shlomo. So they weren't the water; they were filled with water. But the yam was the vessel itself. So the water will fill, just the wisdom of Hashem will fill the world like the water will fill this hole in the ground of the ocean. And what does that mean? It means just like that happens, there's nothing resisting the water from filling that hole. The water flows down, there's a big hole in the ground, the water's there, and it goes in and fills it up all the way to the top. Nothing stops it. It's the same thing, the wisdom of Hashem will come down into the world and fill the whole world, including the animals, so that even the non-intellectual, the non-understanding animals will have this kind of wisdom that they won't want to hurt each other anymore or dominate each other anymore. So it will fill the world just like the water covers the sea. That's the prophecy here. Very interesting. Okay, going further. And it will be in that day, there will be a route to Yeshai. It will be established, the kingdom of the child of Yeshai, Mashiach. There will stand up a banner to the nations. And the Malbim knows what that means. It means the nations will hold a banner to destroy us. First, there will be an opposition. It will be this Muhammad of Gog and Magog, which almost happened which happened on some level in the time of Chizkiyahu. But then in the future, it's going to happen in a much bigger way. The whole world, more or less, is going to come against the Jewish nation, against Hashem. The banner will be held up to the nations to go against Israel. In the end, the nations will be defeated, and the Mashiach will be strong, and the Jewish nation will be strong, and his menucha, the tranquility of the Mashiach will be honorable. Why? Because if no one bothers anyone, if they don't notice them, if let's say you live in some island, the Philippines, and no one bothers you over there, so there's no honor for the fact that no one bothers them because no one notices them. But what if you're the center of everyone's attention? Everyone wants to destroy you, and they all fail. In the end, you have tranquility and independence and power and admiration from the whole world. You say, wow, this is a nation that everyone tried to destroy, and they live in perfect tranquility, and all the rest, the people that try to destroy them, are the ones that were destroyed. So then that's going to be a great honor for that nation. Faya b'yom hahu. And it will be in that day, Yosef Hashem Shenit Yado Liknot Et Sharamo Sher Yeshayahu Mi'ashur Mi'Mitzrayim Mi'Patros Mekush Me'Elam U'Meshinar Me'Chamat Me'Iyeh Hayam. That then what will happen is Hashem will gather in again for the second time all of the nations. What's the first time? Yeah. Egypt. Yetzias Mitzrayim. The first time Hashem gathered us from Egypt, and He brought us to Eretz Yisrael. And now it's going to be in that day, the time of Mashiach, He'll gather us again from everywhere, from all these different nations which He lists. From Ashur, from Mitzrayim, from Patros, from Cush, from Elam, from Shinar, and that will be all the 10 tribes, and it will be all 10 tribes and Yehuda. They're all spread out. They'll all be gathered in to Eretz Yisrael. One second, I just want to think, who's that Yehuda, or that's the nations? 1 second. Keneged Golas Mitzrayim, Nazanes, Basaf. Oh, so he says both in here. Basaf, he'll gather in, he says a very interesting thing, he says he'll gather in the 10 tribes. The first part it says...
Well, the next part is about Ephraim. Jealousy of Ephraim.
Wait. No, that's the next puzzle. They're right, there's the next puzzle. So he's going to gather everybody from the four corners of the earth, they're going to come back. Like they came back from Mitzrayim. V'nasa nes legoyim, he will make nasa nes. There will be lifted up like a sign to the nations that it's time to gather in the Jewish people from all the nations. Vasaf nidche Yisrael, and the exiles of Israel will be gathered. So the Malbim says that means that's the 10 shvatim, that's the 10 tribes, and he says they'll be gathered from one spot. They're going to be in one spot. That's what he says in the Malbim. On somewhere Africa, I don't know exactly what that means, but they'll be gathered in the 10 tribes from where they are. And v'nifutzas Yehuda yikabetz me'arba konforts, but But the scattered of Yehuda will be gathered from the rest. So all the ones scattered out, that's from Yehuda. And the ones gathered somewhere in exile will be the 10 tribes. We don't know where they are exactly. But they'll be gathered together. It sounds like, according to Malbim, they'll be in one place. Vasara kinat Ephraim v'tzore Yehuda yikaretu. Ephraim lekaneh et Yehuda, Yehuda l'yatzor et Ephraim. And it will remove the jealousy between Ephraim and Yehuda. And this, you could say, it means. I want to conjecture that it means that there's the two forces of a nation, society. There is the Idea Elokit, Idea Ha-Lu'umit. There's the national aspect, and there is the religious aspect. You could say that of the nation, and they have to come together. There's always a friction between them throughout history. The people, the national leaders, and the religious leaders. In the future, they'll all come together, and there won't be any more conflict. Okay, I got it right. Okay. Interesting. So now we hear it firsthand about Mashiach, instead of people talking like without sources.
Yeah.
And see, that's the place that the Christians, they mess with that.
Uh-huh.
Right? Yeah?
Yeah.
It's talking about Chizkiyahu. It's not talking about Yashka. That's
Sure.